Those in the north are closest to the gods.
Far to the north of the Old World, the blighted region known as the Realm of Chaos bleeds across the north of the world from a gaping wound in the fabric of reality. Today, we will attempt to go far north, as far as we can, to the very border of the world of Warhammer and reality itself. We will start our journey in the malign wilderness known as Troll Country, the area north of Kislev. No tribes dwell here, for the predators that stalk its wastes are beyond counting. No other realm in the mortal world hosts as many monsters, the most common of which are trolls of all breeds. These are malformed monsters whose lack of intelligence is as legendary as their strength. But the mutating power of chaos has touched more than trolls in this benighted place. Packs of ice wolves hunt down and pounce upon those who stray into their territory. These are natural killers, built of muscle and fang. They will even charge a spear wall with total abandon. Their only concern is the moment their jaws sink into flesh. Manticores soar high above the mountain ranges in search of fresh prey. They are amongst the most powerful of all the predators that live in the northern mountain ranges. Though the sane men of the old world abhor Troll Country as a frozen purgatory from which few return, the champions of chaos frequently brave its dangers. For where better to seek eternal glory than in a land that gathers more monsters than men? Troll Country is not the only place filled with monsters. Further north, the frozen mountains await to those with enough courage to venture into the region of Norsca.
This harsh land breeds the savage, and we revel in it.
The monsters roam the frozen plains, but are not the only danger. These mountainous lands are haunted by all manner of roving barbarians and a merciless climate. Norsca is a savage and brutal land, plagued by lethal winters for more than half the year. No crops survive there, for the ground is as hard as iron and the howling winds cut like daggers of purest cold. To make it worse, it is lashed perpetually by raging gales of chaos energies, howling down from the ancient ruins of the fallen Warpgate, resting at the very heart of the northern chaos wastes. As such, no sane human being will be able to survive in this harsh wasteland with their sanity intact. It is for this reason that most, if not all the tribes of Norsca, are affected to some extent by the power of chaos, causing their flesh to warp and mutate through their influences of their gods, and their minds to be plunged into the darkest depths of the most violent insanity. In the lands of Norsca, lying between the Sea of Claws and the Sea of Chaos, scattered coastal settlements provide some respite from the cruel elements. Yet they are often attacked by monsters, rival barbaric tribes and other horrors. It is here that the Northmen build the longships, in which they terrorise the shores of the known world in search of plunder, glory and the favour of their gods. To the east of Norsca lies the southern arm of the Frozen Sea, and east of that the great northern steppes that are home to the tribe of both the Hung, the greatest horsemen of the north, and the Kurgan. Where the armies of chaos gather to invade the old world, it is the Kurgan that comprise the bulk, for they are numerous people who feel the call of battle in their blood. Norsca and the Northlands is a grim and shadowy land where the weak do not live long. And living means a constant fight for survival, supremacy, and the chance to appease the gods. War among tribes is common in this giant, icy graveyard. The Norscan tribes are comprised warriors of the sea as well as the land, journeying far to the south and the west in sturdily built longships. The northern tribes are universally bloodthirsty, barbaric and fierce. War is their natural state and they wage it without prejudice, rejoicing in battle and strength in arms. Comparing a normal man to the men who dwell in the Northlands is like comparing a sheep to a wolf. The Northmen are barbarous and savage, almost a race apart, worshipping outlandish gods and living lives that are altogether harsher and more primitive compared to those who live in settled and civilised lands to the south. They have no time to plough or sickle, for their tools are the axe, the sword and the shield. What their own lands cannot provide, they simply take from the lands of lesser men. Where the southerners cower behind the high walls of their cities, the warriors of the north roam the far corners of the world in search of adventure and plunder. Where the soft-bellied denizens of the empire glut themselves on fine wine and cheese in front of the fireplace, the hardened Northmen rip into raw meat with their bare hands and teeth. To the Northmen, there is no greater honour than to fight and perish in the armies of chaos, under the gaze of the gods, to become a mighty warrior, offering up the deaths of those they slay on the battlefield with each passing day. Though the vast majority die in the attempt, there will occasionally emerge a warrior, strong and driven enough to be chosen by the gods as one of their champions. When chaos is ascendant, the men of the north are more willing to put aside their rivalries and disputes as word spreads of a coming conflict. The tribes gather together in great marauding hordes under the command of a fell champion of chaos, who they will follow to the corners of the world in the name of conquest.
The old world calls.
The further north a traveller walks, the more desolate, surreal and inhospitable the terrain becomes. Any traveller who will have to pass through the chaos wastes in his desire is to cross the boundary between worlds and reach the realm of chaos. The winds that blow here are not those of air, but of pure sorcery, and the storm-shaken sky boils with power. Here, one can witness the rebellion of nature itself, where even the elements are torn between the mortal and immortal worlds. The trees are contorted into blackened skeletons, straining their branches. Jagged peaks and metallic spikes thrust out of the land like splintered bones, and rivers of lava run backwards through deep fissures on the ground. Only the madmen, the truly brave, or the foolish make war in this place. Vast armies have been consumed or turned into gold by the breaths of uncaring gods. Those who fight here seek, for one reason or another, the attention of the gods. Across this impossible, nightmarish landscape, stark, dark champions who roam the wastes in search of eternal glory and unending war, and only the greatest amongst them will ever reach the borders of the realm of chaos alive. The realm of chaos is incomprehensible, a cosmically vast realm where the laws of physics do not apply. Not even the concept of time holds any meaning. A champion may battle within this twisted realm for long months and discover upon his return to reality that only a single day or an entire century has passed. The realm of chaos is the source of all magic in the world, and the legendary home to the lost and the damned, and of infinitely worse things. It is the birthplace of heroes, demons and monsters, the forge from which eternal life or everlasting damnation can be wrought. It is an ever-changing realm where everything is created and destroyed at the same time. The flow of the realm is impossibly unpredictable. The continents of this place shift and flow incessantly in an incomprehensible dance of time and space. In terms of mere mortal understanding, the legends alone must suffice, for it is impossible for a man to truly know the nature of chaos without losing his mind, his body, and his soul. If we go any further step over the boundary, we would find a region of infinite space, altogether removed from the mortal world. Worlds alone are incapable of describing that which lies beyond oblivion's veil. Thus, we must stop here at the gates of chaos, where we are unable to follow even in our imagination.
Thank you for watching. On this channel, we're putting together fan-made cinematic episodes featuring historical and fantasy battles based on the settings from the Total War series and, of course, good old World of Warhammer. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and hit the notification button to be the first to watch the next battle.